So in this video I want to talk about one of our core strengths, and that is our ability to be vulnerable. And it's often quite difficult for us to be vulnerable because, when we were children we will have been born with that ease of vulnerability. We would have been ourselves, but very quickly we would have learned that being ourselves just wasn't in line with the lack programming that was throughout collective consciousness. We would have learned very quickly that our true self needed to be hidden, needed to be locked away. And also, as we go through life and we get hurt and we experience pain from being open, we start to close down the heart space. We start to build up those walls around us, and we start to find it very difficult to be vulnerable because we fear being vulnerable. We see if we're going to be vulnerable, we feel like we can get hurt. So if we put on a mask, we put on walls, then we can't truly, it's almost like subconscious, so we're not truly feeling the pain because we're not truly bringing the true self into that relationship or that job or just into our lives, right? So it becomes difficult to be vulnerable. And also, when it comes to that word vulnerability, it's seen often in society as a weakness. We talk about vulnerable people. We talk about people being vulnerable, being in a state of vulnerability, like that is something that is, they need to be protected because they are and I'm not saying that there isn't people that are vulnerable and need some protection, but it's the way that we attach those meanings and those programs around what vulnerability really means. We start to see vulnerability as being something that is potentially a weakness. If you are vulnerable, you can get hurt, you can be taken advantage of. So it becomes something that we find very difficult to do. But actually, as with everything in this reality, in this reality that we're in, which is basically keeps in the mind of duality, of strength and weakness, of up and down. Everything has an opposite, and the opposite of vulnerability, the truth about vulnerability, when you start to see the unity of vulnerability, when you start to change your consciousness into a unity consciousness, you start to realize that actually the opposite of vulnerability, or what we see as vulnerability, is see as being weakness, is strength. And actually those are the same. Vulnerability is your strength. It is our strength. And even if you think about it, for people that are vulnerable, so we might class people that are disabled as being vulnerable, but if you really think about it, or maybe don't think because the mind's very limited, use your consciousness. If you are born into a disability, if you have a disability, like you're blind or you can't hear, then how much strength do you have to cultivate? Do you have to live every second of your life to navigate this 3D matrix with that disability? You have to be strong. So you can actually feel that vulnerability is our strength. And vulnerability is the gateway to our authenticity. And what we're really scared of, we're scared of being authentic because that's what's been shut down in this society. So I want you to see, or I wanted to give that fresh perspective on vulnerability and how, we often have to start using courage to be vulnerable. And this has been a journey that I've been on. I mean, in my family, I was blessed. My upbringing, I was blessed. In my family, we didn't really talk about our emotions. And that is true for most families. You don't talk about your emotions. Everything was fun. Everything that was difficult was really hidden. I didn't really talk about emotions. And as I've got older, I always felt like I had to be strong. I'd built this persona of being strong. I was disconnected to my own emotions. I didn't know how to express my emotions. I didn't even know what I was feeling half of the time. And that's had to be a journey that I've had to go on, where I've had to reopen up my heart again, become open again, become vulnerable, so I can connect to the true self. And has it been worth taking those steps and using courage when it's been really difficult? And have I always got the outcome that I want? No, I've not always got the outcome that I thought I might get or what I hoped for in being vulnerable, but I've got what I needed, and it's become something even better than what I could have even asked for in that moment. And by being vulnerable, one, it's become easier to be vulnerable, and it's still a journey. It's for me doing this video right now for you, I would not be doing these videos that I've been doing for the last couple of years when I retrained, moved out of finance to retrain, to work more with, helping people heal things, move back into the true self. I would never have had the courage or the vulnerability to be able to do this work, but the journey that I've been on has allowed me to come to this, to connect to the authentic self so that I can do this and keep moving forward on this journey. And being vulnerable, so it's something that we have to practice, because we've closed down our hearts, we've gone through relationships that have hurt us, and we've closed down our hearts. But when you close down your heart, you don't just block out pain, you block out love. So we've got to learn to open up the heart again and know that when you are vulnerable, it takes a bit of courage to start with, but it starts to become easy to do. And the benefits that flood into you, that you shift in ways that I can't articulate really. It's just something that you will experience. Your relationships with yourself will deepen, therefore your relationship with others will deepen. You'll start to be led more on the path that is for your highest good. So you start to move out of the fears of the mind and more into your own heart space and your presence. And even when you are vulnerable and you don't get what you think that you want, you still get what you need out of that. It's like you start to realize we don't need to be afraid of feeling pain. Look back at your life and think about all the moments that you felt pain. Pain is not bad. We've been programmed to believe pain is bad. Pain is not bad. We all go through pain, and often when we go through that pain, it leads to something better. It leads to a shift in our consciousness, an evolution of our soul. So yeah, this video, oh shit, God, whoa, nearly. You see, at one point I would not have kept that on that video because I would have felt humiliated that I nearly fell, and you are seeing it. But now I don't care really, because who cares, right? We are human. And we can be vulnerable, and we don't be scared of everything. So this video is to encourage you to look at your life and ask, where can you be more open with your heart? Where can you be more honest, more vulnerable? And this takes practice. You've got to practice it. And every day gives you that opportunity to practice on your own self-growth. And, it is about devoting to the self, to your own growth. In doing that, that impacts you, yourself, and the planet. And right now we are moving, the consciousness of this planet is being uplifted. We are moving out of that matrix of fear, of being controlled, into the divine matrix of abundance, of being able to be our true, raw, real, honest selves.